It took us about a year to get to something like 25K
Mhm,
ARR,
mhm.
and it took us the next year to get to 150.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Plugin.fm podcast brought to you by Freemius. In this podcast, I chat with product makers about their experiences in entrepreneurship, life, and everything in between to uncover actionable practices and strategies that you can use to succeed in your own business journey. Expect a healthy dose of ambition, inspiration, and plain old bootstrapping. My name is Patrick Rollins, an e-commerce and marketing geek who loves podcasting. Today, I'm excited to welcome Vito Peleg to the show. He's a former touring musician turned freelance developer turned agency owner and CEO founder. Vito's an expert in product market research, marketing, design, and making them work together to successfully launch a product. And not just a little launch, but a large, successful launch. In 2019, Vito and his team launched WP Feedback, earning $100,000 in revenue in the first 30 days. And then it grew to become the leading solution for website feedback in the WordPress community. Since then, Vito and his team have ridden the waves of growth and reconfigured WP Feedback into Atarim, which has gone on to become one of the most successful products in its vertical. Today, we're going to be diving into what it takes to build a solid foundation from which to launch a product, from product market fit to marketing and growth tactics. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Let's start with the fun stuff. It's pretty crazy to think that the man in front of me right now, you look like a professional WordPress developer, if I had to just stereotype you, but you also have this like rock and roll background.
Right.
Uh, Tell us about how you went from touring Rockstar to a WordPress product owner.
So it actually very much intertwined, and that's the cool part about it. I learned to build websites because the band needed a website,
Huh.
and so someone had to do it, and it had to be me.
Uh-huh.
That's how I started, and or even before that, I needed to learn. Someone needed to do flyers and t-shirts and things like that. So I
Mhm.
picked up Photoshop, and someone needed to manage social media, so I learned marketing, and everything really started from the fact that I was a musician between age of 14 to almost 30.
Yeah.
And then from there, basically, originally I'm from Tel Aviv, from Israel, and we got signed in the UK through the band, which allowed us to move over to here, and we started touring, right? But as a bootstrapped band,
Uh-huh.
it's pretty much like ramen profitability
Yeah.
for startups at the beginning, right? So we had to make some additional income somehow. And so I started building websites literally from the back of the van as we were traveling around the world. And that grew into a freelancing business. And then eventually, when we turned 30,
Mhm.
and it wasn't really nice to live in a smelly van with four other guys anymore, we put an end to that chapter and settled in London. And then I started building an agency here in the city that quickly grew to a team of 12. We built hundreds and hundreds of websites for small businesses here, and through that we found the product, and it all feels like it's just a continuation of the journey of that
Yeah.
kid that played guitar back in Israel 20 almost 20 years ago, really.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy how if you follow your passion and you pick up all those little skills along the way, you can, I don't want to say you can do anything, but there's a lot of jobs, like there's a lot of jobs that people train for professionally that you just learned the skills because you had to learn them yourself, right?
Yeah,
You learned Photoshop. Like lots of kids go to school to learn how to use Photoshop
right.
and you just had to figure it out because you had something that needed to be done. You had real world problems to solve. So it's pretty cool that you just learned doing everything.
And I think that this is something that is very common
Yeah.
to startups or
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and musicians. That's why you see a lot of them, a lot of musicians going into tech and building
Uh-huh.
products and things like that, because there's many inherent skills or shared skills that can be acquired at an earlier age and then implemented to business
Yeah.
at a later operation. And so. I see that all the time. It's like people see the guitar in my background and say, "Oh, you play? I'm a drummer and I'm a bass player and I'm a this," and and now we all do tech, so this is
Yeah.
really cool.
Wow. Wow. A lot of your musician buddies do tech. That's very cool. I would have never guessed. I love it. So I mentioned WP feedback in the intro. So initially, this was an internal product for your agency, Ace Digital, but you obviously must have seen some sort of potential in it
Right.
and decided to turn it into a commercial product. Now, I want to talk about the launch, because launching is a cool thing that we haven't talked about on the show yet. But before we get to the launch, how did you figure out that there was product market fit? How did you do the development, the design, and basically how did you make it how did you make it a product? Go from an
Right.
internal tool into a fully fledged product.
So the process was interesting because I was looking for ways to scale up the agency, and scaling up a service business is very hard and very heavy on the manpower,
Hmm.
And so we could have continued the agency and just kept putting bodies in seats, and that would have grown exactly like it did before. But I was looking for a different path, and wherever I looked, there were really a few ways to go about this, but the answer was one word: product.
Hmm.
And so I was looking into creating a course about the stuff that I learned as an agency owner, and I came up with a bunch of different product ideas for small plugins that I thought would be useful for us at the agency, and therefore maybe others will want them as well. And while I was thinking about all this stuff, the agency things kept coming back. All the struggles with the clients,
Hmm.
and trying to get them on the same page as us, and my team were getting frustrated with waiting on clients, and following up, and all of those kind of different annoying things that happen at a service business. And then, just as a by the way, we were kind of saying, why can't they just click any part of the website and just leave a comment
Hmm.
where the problem is, instead of us trying to pull this out of them? And so I asked, so I mocked it up really quickly on a whiteboard at the office, and I showed this to one of the developers, and I was like, let's try and build that. Let's try and do this, because I think that's going to help them, so that I can focus on finding what would be the product that we will build. In the meantime, you build that to serve the clients, And so we did, and it worked like magic. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, we saw the project delivery reduced by weeks and sometimes months.
Wow.
And so then I was like, okay, I'm looking for something to build, but looks like we already did it.
Hmm.
Let's see if this is a problem that only we have, or if this is
Hmm.
something that is shared by other folks. And so what we did is and it was extremely basic, Patrick. It was like,
Hmm.
it was before alpha, like
Yeah.
minus beta, minus
Yeah.
B, And so we took I took a video screencast of it, and I talked to a friend, the bass player that from the
Uh-huh.
band, and
Uh-huh.
was doing like video motion graphics and things like that, and asked him, there's a few things that I think would be better for it to look like and to feel like, but I don't want to invest more development time into it. So let's fake it in After Effects, and just like make it look like it should look. And we put that video together. It's like 15 seconds, looks like a screencast, but
Hmm.
actually it was there was some After
Hmm.
Effects done to it. And I put it on a few Facebook groups along with
Hmm.
a forum that just
Huh.
asked people, will this help you?
Yeah.
And if it will, click here and sign up. Just give me your email address, so we'll let you know when we're ready for something. And then the flow was basically the email address. Once they
Hmm.
gave us the email address, there was a survey that was trying to figure out exactly what you were saying, the product market fit, and
Hmm.
what is their exact problems, how do they do it now, and all of those kind of different things. And yeah, and within a couple of days, we had 1,300 signups, and then I was like, okay, there is something here.
I mean, 1,300 signups in a couple of days is very good feedback that your
Yes.
product is solving like it's solving an actual problem that people are really struggling with. There's
Yes.
a gap in the market. I love that.
Yeah, so
So,
we had 1,300 signups, and out of them, a little more than 500 actually gone through a 20-question survey and gave us information. So you could see that it's not that they only had a problem. Half of them had a severe problem, strong enough to take the time to
mm,
go through the
yeah,
pain of filling out a 20
yeah,
question thing, with someone they have no idea who it is.
yeah. So number one, you were validating that your product solves a problem. You're making sure that there's product market fit.
Yeah.
But then also, you got feedback from them? How much of that feedback did you implement before the launch?
A
Like,
whole lot.
did a whole
Yeah.
lot?
So
Yeah.
not only that, we took that survey because I was also, it wasn't all calculated stuff. It was a lot of it was like, oh man, look at what's going on. Look at how many signups we got last
Mm,
week. This is crazy. What's going on
mm,
here? And all this kind of stuff, right?
mm,
All this early stage excitement that was going on. And
uh,
so, what I also wanted is I wanted to take this all this information and give it back to the community. So what we did is we created some interesting stats out of it, created a report, printed it out, and printed like 600 copies of it, and I was walking around in word camps and just giving those booklets to 600 people. That had like the final page was talking about the brand new product that we've
yeah.
created, but most of it was just like check out how 600 other agencies are doing things like what page builders they are using, what is their how do they communicate with clients at every stage, how do they gather content, how many what is their average deal size,
Mm,
when they actually sell a project. So it became a super useful information for a bunch of other people, and that gave us some that got me into that kind of building in public
yeah.
concept as well, because I saw that it was helping people, and I just decided to do more and more of this stuff.
So first of all, I love that you made a paper report. In the digital age that we live in, it's really easy to just to make everything digital. I would definitely make a digital PDF download,
Yeah, it
and I
was
would.
also that. It was also
Yeah,
yeah.
but thinking to bring it to WordCamps, right? Where like, and I would at least glance at it, right? If I download a PDF report, I might not read it. I might save it in Evernote and say I'll read it later, but
Yes.
not. So I love that you made a physical paper product. That's fantastic. So why not just make the pre-beta and then just launch there and see what happens? Because I think that's what a lot of WordPress developers do is they have some sort of good idea and they make a beta, alpha, whatever you want to call it, and then they launch it, and then very little happens.
Right. So I actually took a bit of a different approach. I'm very much about speed to market, and the time between. So everything that I'm telling you, Patrick, this is like weeks.
Yeah.
So literally in February, the idea came in. In March, we were testing it out with some clients at the agency, and mid March, the survey went out.
Hmm.
And in April, I'm already out handing out these booklets, and beta started.
Got it.
And the official launch was just like in May.
Hmm.
But and again, this is very short amount of time. If you think about it,
Hmm.
it's literally
Yeah.
weeks. But what I wanted to do with the beta was first of all get some feedback from people that are actually running businesses, so
Hmm.
that I can bring not a beautiful product, but a minimal product that can actually be useful, so that
Hmm.
we don't. I also remember about myself that I am as a business owner, I bought into a bunch of different products, especially with all of those lifetime deals and AppSumo
Hmm.
and all
Hmm.
those kind of
Hmm.
things. You buy into early stage products, and,
Hmm.
and they're crap, and you never
Hmm.
you just use them once or try
Uh-huh.
to use them, and then that's it, and you never see the person again. So I didn't want to burn the audience early on. I wanted to have something that would be useful. But still extremely basic because time was okay. We have this deadline. and we're
Mhm.
going to launch it because and the way that the deadline was set was based on an event. WordCamp Europe was coming up in Berlin,
Ah.
2019,
Yep.
and so it's an unmovable deadline.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna be there, and
Mhm.
we're gonna talk about this. So the website should be able to sell it.
Yeah.
And so that's really how the whole thing went on, and that gave us a whole bunch of drive to make sure that
Mhm.
we're activating the beta testers, because a lot of times you get better folks, and they just don't give you the feedback that you need,
Yeah.
and then you get tempted into just launching something that is half baked, or you get tempted into giving it for free to a bunch of other beta testers in the hopes that maybe they will give us some feedback. So what we did is we said, okay, you're getting it, but we're actually going to take it from you
Mhm.
if you're not going to give us feedback.
Mhm.
And so that really activated a whole bunch of them,
Mhm.
and we set rules. You have to give us 2 reports at least within
Uh-huh.
the next 4 weeks, and we're going to send you weekly surveys that you're going to need to fill out. And if you don't do 2 of them, then you're going to get locked out of the product,
Yeah.
and these kind of things. And we
Hmm.
did lock out a bunch, but out of 100 people that we allowed into the beta, we got feedback from 70 some, which is
Yeah.
great.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's how it all started there.
So what's interesting about that is I think especially so in WordPress and also just being a nice person alive today, you want to say, "Here, give me some beta feedback whenever you want." What
No,
yeah,
you don't do
I
it.
but I think my assumption is I want to be really nice, be as nice as I can to them so that they give me precious feedback.
No,
And it's
no.
funny that sometimes if you're a little mean isn't the right word, but if you're strict, and maybe it's
Yes,
like you're protecting your time, right? Like, hey, look, we want to launch this product in a month or 2 months. So
yeah.
we need all the feedback in a month. And if you're not going to give us feedback, that's fine. But we're just going to end this beta relationship, and that's the end of it because we need this feedback in a month. We implement it, we launch. So I
And
like yeah,
this is something that well, the product was called WP Feedback, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So we played a lot on that, of course.
Uh-huh,
It was
uh-huh,
very easy to talk about these kind of things. But really, is one of the things that we preach
yeah,
is the principles of good project management. And when you're working with clients, you can't be that guy. You
yeah.
can't be just nice all the time, and you have to be the dad. You have
Mhm,
a newborn yourself, so
yeah,
maybe she's even too young for you to start setting some ground rules there, but it's coming, Patrick. It's
mhm.
coming. She's gonna ask for the cookie, and you're gonna have to say no.
Uh-huh.
And so these ground rules are important to set, not only with clients but also with users. And we even call this internally, and we use this very often, even with support requests, or with partners that we work with. Or even now at the summit, we have our yearly event coming next week, and so we do this with sponsors and speakers. And the question that we pose is always the same: are you the alpha of this relationship? If
Mhm,
not, become the alpha, because that's how you influence things. You can't influence things if you're like that. Please, sir, kind sir,
yeah,
please just give me some feedback. Can I please get $2? Yeah. No, you
yeah,
gotta say no. This is super useful. We're gonna help you, and you're gonna pay for it, and you're gonna do it right now. Here it is. Do it. I'm here waiting. Do it.
yeah. Yeah. So I would reframe that as like it's very you take all the control, like you take all the control, because if you don't, someone else or if you don't take control, then you don't know what happens, whereas it's like
Right.
here's the
Take
rules, here's the
responsibility over
expectations.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Cool.
take ownership over what you need
Yeah.
to get done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. Love that. All right, so let's talk about the launch. So from a high level perspective, how did you plan and execute that product launch? And I don't remember if I said the number already in this podcast, but you made $100,000 in the first month. So
Right.
I mean, this is only a couple months, right? This is like from idea in February to the beta in, sorry, was that March,
Beta in
April,
April
May?
and
Yeah,
launch in May.
and
Yes.
launch in May. So like that's an incredibly compressed time frame to have a launch. If you had a launch that made $5,000, like yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Like that, but this is $100,000 launch. So how did you plan that, and how did you get such a big pickup? How did the launch get so big?
So I was looking into my initial contact list, that 1,500 people that signed up, and I was like, okay, what can we do with them? They said they want it, but I was also looking at the financial goals of setting up a company, and how much is that going to cost? We weren't even talking about profit at this stage. It was just more about like, how can we get this to a place? We have a beta, or we have a minimal viable product, that we can launch, but how do we get this to where it will actually be impactful, not just useful, but large, but massively impactful for every person that is going to use it. And I was also looking at this from a standpoint of what would be cool. What would be a cool milestone? And I tried to look online as to, did someone do like 100K in a month in our space? And I found that third time products, and like people that already have an audience, yes, they
Mhm.
can do a whole lot more, of course. But first time founder coming into the space with no background of product or anything like this, I couldn't find anything like this.
Mm.
And so I thought, okay, that sounds like a good goal to aspire to. How can we get there using the list that we have? And this is going to be actually going to help us build a company, and start hiring a few folks that are, or even just stop doing client work with the agency and focus on this solely. And so what I looked into is okay, if we're gonna do this, starting to build MRR, it's gonna be a long journey. If we're gonna do the app sumo route, which a lot of people were doing at the time, especially in 2019, then we need to sell about 3,000 of these or 5,000 of these for the general revenue to be 100K. But then we will be getting like 20.
Yeah.
So that was out, and instead I decided, okay, I can already see from the beta that we're saving people about 20 to 30% of the time that it takes to build a project.
Wow.
And if we're doing that, and they charge this amount, let's say 2 grand for a project, at least, then we're saving them about $400, $500 every time that they run a project through this system. So let's charge $500
Mm.
just once. Let's do a lifetime deal, 500 bucks. And that means that I need to sell only 400, or sorry, only 200 of these, so that we can make that goal. And can I sell 200, 500 deals to 1,500 people? Probably.
Hmm.
So that really is what initiated the whole thing. I'm just gonna pound that emailing list,
Hmm.
and there was even like a viral type of component to it, that if you after they bought, announce to others that you did, and let's all grow together. And it
Yeah.
was super genuine, as just like, I'm an agency owner. I just want to help more agency owners. I've been doing this for many years. I think that this can help. I think you think that this can help you. So share this with others. So they did,
Hmm.
and that's how we got to that figure in the first 30 days. But really, in the first quarter, we were almost at 300K.
Yeah. That, that's a really impressive launch, and it's funny that I, there's something about digital products and pricing where, and I have a couple AppSumo products, and
Yeah,
it's like, of course you sell it for $50 because everyone else is selling for
yeah.
50.
Why?
Like,
Stupid.
and you, yes, and then you go, but then you added a zero to that, and
Yeah,
it sold just fine. And for a second, I'm like, man, that's expensive. And then you explained it, and I'm like, oh, I would personally
right.
absolutely spend $500 on a WordPress product or some sort of software solution that helps. If I can launch one website faster, that's
Right.
worth it to me,
That's it.
right?
Yes, and if you're a proper agency and you
Yeah,
do even a small agency does 10 projects a year, a small one.
yeah,
A standard agency, a micro agency
yeah,
does like 50 projects, 100 projects a year,
yeah,
and this is just money, free money, really.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was the mindset, and it worked out great, really. And but the point was that we're gonna do it until we get that revenue, and then stop,
Mhm.
because it's so tempting to keep going.
Yeah.
And we stopped, and then we had a relationship with another with a person that had a marketplace,
Hmm.
and he was like, Vito, let's do it again.
Hmm.
I think I have a list of 60,000 people, not
Hmm.
1,500.
Hmm.
I think we can sell a whole bunch of these things through the platform there. And I was like, no, I don't know. We're fine. We have what we need. And it's like, but the money, man, the money. And so eventually I gave in, but I had I told him, all right, Andrew, and he later sold his marketplace. A lot of it is because of this launch
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
did, through the second launch that we did there,
Hmm.
and then he became an investor
Hmm.
in Atarim as well.
Oh, cool.
And now he's the co-founder of Bertha, because we
Uh-huh.
can talk about this later as well.
Yeah.
But that's how this relationship started. And I told him, Andrew, okay, we'll do it, but I do everything. I don't want you to send an email from your side. I don't want you to send anything. We control the launch 100%. We're just going to pull up the playbook of what we did first time, and which is the
Hmm.
playbook that is published on Freemius's blog as well.
Awesome.
And we're just gonna do it one to one, exactly the same amount of emails, the same copy in those emails. We're gonna do a video together instead of video just myself, telling people how awesome it is. Same landing page, just adding your logo on top next to ours, and that's it. We're not doing anything more, anything less. And we cut it
Yeah.
off when we at the time that we said that we will.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
what what was the goal of all why be so restrictive with the
Right.
second launch?
Because lifetime deals are dangerous. They
Uh-huh.
are dangerous. They are a huge danger to an early stage startup.
Uh-huh.
So now almost 4 years in, I see why it was such a smart move, and this
Mhm.
is why all of these AppSumo products never last. They never last,
Yeah.
because what are you gonna do when you get 2,000 people coming in for you for support a year later?
Yeah.
You can't do it, unless you keep selling,
Yeah.
and unless the market is big enough to keep doing that, then maybe, but for most products, it's just gonna kill you.
Mhm.
And it does. It kills most products. So it was very important then, and it kills valuations later on,
Yeah.
because you have a drag on your business, because
Mhm.
you need to serve a few hundred clients, or sometimes a few thousand clients that already paid, and the money was already used, and you're never going to see a dime from them ever again, and they're
Mhm.
going to expect everything for free forever.
Mhm.
And so it's very, very dangerous, and it's an easy balance to break. So what we did there is we said, okay, we did 100 deals on the first one. Here we'll do 200 more, but
Got
we'll
it.
up it to $600, because the
Ah.
first one worked, and now we have a bigger list, so let's do that. And so we did that, and we stopped it after. And now there's like 400 of these lifetime deals
Yeah.
wandering around the
Yeah.
WordPress space. Most people are hanging on to them,
Uh-huh.
and we still talk to those users pretty much every day, which is an example of why
Mhm.
it was also dangerous, because
Mhm. Mhm.
imagine if there were
Yeah.
more than these amount.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly lifetime deals are not sustainable, right? They give you a huge
Yes.
amount of revenue up front, but they're not sustainable. I
More
think
sustainable is a kind of a nice buzzword that people
uh-huh.
say. It's
Uh-huh.
freaking dangerous. It can kill you. You
Okay.
know.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's take a couple. Did you do any like segmenting? Did you have different personas when you were doing this, or was it all sort of one agency owner persona?
Yeah. So we didn't know much about those things at the time. Now there's a lot more segmentation in place. There it was just like, this is what we got. Hopefully you'll find it useful. So here it
Yeah.
is. You know,
Cool.
uh,
That,
yeah,
that's pretty cool because I'm a big fan of using personas for marketing as well as other things, but it's nice to start with one persona and you can always
yeah.
expand later and go, okay, this is really three separate personas. Here's the small one, the medium, the large one. Cool. So just start with
Yes.
one. Yeah.
So, well, it was like, who is the person? And we had these discussions.
Mhm.
Like, who is this for? How are they? Why do they need it? And all of those kind of basic questions that you ask. And who is this for? Vito. It's for Vito. Let's find a few hundreds of Vitos out there and
Yeah.
sell to them. Why does he need it? Because he doesn't want to deal with all of the crap and
Yeah.
the clients, and
Mhm.
his team is struggling with it and all those. So we basically interviewed me,
Uh-huh.
and I wrote down why I need it,
Uh-huh.
and that was the copy.
Uh-huh. Oh, very cool. I'm a big fan of using myself as like the very first persona. I like
Yeah,
that you labeled your persona, in this case yourself, but it's good to have like how do we sell to Vito, right? It's so much
yes,
easier to say how do we sell to Vito than
yeah,
how do we sell this product to everyone. Like if you say how do you sell this product, you're kind of implying to everyone. Whereas
right.
if you say how do we sell to Vito, you throw out half the stuff and you include half the stuff that might not work for everyone else. Cool.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Love
What
it.
what makes me not buy something? And let's address
Yeah.
those objections early
Yeah.
on. And yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think this is one of the things that are for many products generally. Just be your own client initially. Scratch your own itch, and it's always the best way to start, and
Mhm.
not necessarily to scale.
Mhm.
Because later on we found personas that are not me
Yeah.
that have a lot more money than me that can pay for a whole bunch bigger deals and stuff. But early on it's great that you have that clarity.
Clarity. Love it. Did you have any challenges in the launch before, during, after? Did anything go wrong? Emails go wrong, or people writing in say this is broken, or I don't know, influencers say this is a bad product? Like, what challenges popped up? I'm sure you had
Right.
some.
Well, there was one thing. It was pretty early on,
Oh,
but there was another product in the space that was already there, doing some of those things. Not the same mindset, not the same focus, not the
mhm,
same passion and to make it a big thing. But there was one more competitor, right, that we
mhm,
identified, and he freaked out because he was on his own for a few years,
mm.
and so he started lashing out
Oh,
at us, and we were like, "Man, we're like 3 weeks old.
yeah.
What are you talking about?"
Uh-huh.
And so he started lashing out on social media and creating comparison pages where I was
Uh-huh.
even, I didn't know how to handle these things
Uh-huh.
myself, and I got offended. And responded, and all of those
Uh-huh.
kind of things. It became a drama thing, and the whole
Uh-huh.
thing. Now there's people literally copying the copy of our homepages, and I'm like, fine, if
Uh-huh.
you can make it work, there's enough to go around. But
Uh-huh.
usually they don't last long, because if you're
Yeah.
not yourself, and if you're just copying someone else,
Yeah.
then you're probably not gonna you don't have respect for your own product and your audience and your own business.
Yeah.
So that's the mindset that I adopted later on, but
Mhm,
early in the early stage it was very stressful,
mhm,
and it just shifted my focus from what
mhm,
mattered. You know what I mean?
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, so how do you handle that? Do you respond? So if someone listening to this launches a product and then
Well, I
some
had a
other, yeah, go ahead.
so yesterday I had a founder that just released a plugin in the WordPress space reach
Uh-huh.
out to me and told me exactly that, and he said, I'm pissed off, and these
Uh-huh.
guys are and well, not nothing to do with us. It was just like trying to pick my brain into what do you do, asking exactly this question.
Yeah.
So there's not much you can do,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
What I would say nowadays, looking back, is play the underdog card.
Mm.
That's fine. Make them look like they are the evil ones.
Hmm.
You know,
The evil empire.
Yeah, the evil empire, then trying to
Oh,
squash you and
uh,
play the victim a little bit, but do it consciously and do it
uh,
for a little bit, and
yeah,
not it's not a business strategy being the victim.
yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
political strategy a lot of
Uh-huh,
times,
uh-huh,
but it's not good for business to be
yeah.
in that position. So only if it fits, if you are
Mhm, mhm,
or early on and you can see that someone else is trying to be aggressive. um, I wasn't taking it, I wasn't, please hit me, I was being the alpha
yeah.
of that situation as well,
Mhm,
and I was being more like, look at this guy he had a few years in the sun. He was there on his own, and he didn't do half of the stuff that we did in 3 weeks.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
So which team do you want to be on?
Wow, that's a good. That's good. That's good. Huh.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so eventually WP Feedback becomes Atarim, which is this
Yes.
a little bit more of a comprehensive collaborative SaaS tool. Why did you reconfigure it?
Right.
And yeah, why did you evolve it?
Cool. So pretty early on, we realized that because what it does, it allows people to click any part of the website, leave
Mhm,
comments where the problems is and everything, right? And it was a plugin. It was installed on a client's website, and then you will be able to annotate it like a Google document, if you
mhm,
will. But agencies run more than one website.
mhm,
Many times they run dozens of them and hundreds of them. And so, what do you do? How do you consolidate all these different requests into one centralized concept? And
mhm,
so, we had to pick a way to help them. It was literally user led because they were saying, well, I need to go into each one of I put it on 50 websites, and now I need to go to each one of them every morning to see if the client left comments.
mhm,
It's like, okay, cool. Let's build a dashboard that will consolidate all of those installations, and that was the like a response to a user request, right? But it was a big response because we had to build a platform that if going from a plugin to actually having
yeah.
a hosted solution,
Mhm,
like a SaaS solution.
yeah.
So we did that, and we ran that for a while.
Uh-huh.
But then we ran that under the WP Feedback brand, and everyone was like, "Okay, cool. WP Feedback. It's a plugin for WordPress for feedback, right?
Yep.
That's what it is. It's WP
Mm.
Feedback." But SaaS is a completely different ball game.
Mhm,
You have different costs. You have different technologies to learn to work with. Now we're not working on WordPress only. We have the
mm,
plugin, but we also have this Laravel and React dashboard
mm.
that needs to be managed and hosted on AWS with DevOps and all of this crap. And so it's a different animal, and a plugin is already underpriced, while a SaaS has a perception of you can charge a little more. You can even charge monthly. Most plugins don't even
Mhm,
charge monthly. So you charge most plugins charge yearly, and then you have this challenge of creating revenue on a monthly basis that will help you facilitate payroll and all of those kind of things. Everyone was seeing us as a plugin, while I was everywhere saying, but we're not, we're a SaaS. Just look at this. We're a SaaS with a plugin. We're a SaaS with a plugin. We have a dashboard.
mm.
Forget about it. I know it's called W feedback, but we have a dashboard. There's costs associated. And I was trying to train the market
Yeah.
on something. And instead I was like, okay, you know what? Screw that. Let's rebrand the whole thing. It's gonna be a pain, but we're already seeing that the product is evolving to something way beyond just WP feedback, just WordPress feedback. So let's just find a name that is a bit more. That is more broad, that will
Mm,
allow our vision to grow with a product instead of confining it to just WP feedback. And so we chose Atarim. Atarim in Hebrew means websites.
oh.
And so it's super broad. You can do whatever you want. right? And no one knows what it is. It's like
Uh-huh.
Asana. What is it? What is
Uh-huh.
Asana? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
And so I was looking at those tools, and I was like, okay, what is Kinsta? I don't know. It probably means something, but I don't know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So let's find these kind of names that makes no sense. What is
Mhm.
Trello? I don't know what it
Mhm.
means. So we did that, uh, and um, and we rode that relaunch or that rebrand to reset the positioning of the
Yeah.
company as a SaaS product rather than
Mhm.
this, even though we were that for almost a year before the rebrand.
So I love in my brain, these were two things that happened at the same oops, smacking my microphone. Two things that happened at the same time where you rebranded and you turned it into a SaaS, but they
Right.
were two separate things and they were because of two separate problems. The SaaS is because people have 50 different websites, they want to review all the feedback in one
Yeah.
place. Totally get that. But then you still have the problem of people are calling you a plugin and you really are a SaaS at this point, so you're trying to
Yes.
rebrand. So I'm okay. Let me tell you my bias. My bias is towards really simple product names. I actually love WP feedback.
Right.
However, then when you switch to something like Atarim, it's broad, but then people might not know what you do. So here's my question: did you lose any like WordPress business? Like, did you used to get 100 sales a month and now you're down to 80 sales a month, or did the sales keep going even though the name is slightly less intuitive?
Well, with this, we also 10x our prices,
Wow.
and because we were selling yearly,
Yeah.
and then we started selling it on a monthly basis.
Hmm.
So really, the way that it was like the base plan was like $79 a year, right? And the top plan was like $300 a year.
Hmm.
And then we went to the base plan being $50 a month. And it makes sense. Wouldn't you pay a SaaS $50 a month?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, it saves you $500 per project. You know, so all happened at the same time. So I don't know to tell you how that affected, but I can tell you that a year after, so it took us about a year to get to something like 25K
Hmm.
ARR,
Hmm.
and it took us the next year to get to 150.
Yeah.
you
Wow.
know so that's the so and that a lot of it is because of the rebrand and all of those kind of and the new pricing model, but also momentum. We're
Yeah.
building momentum
Yeah.
constantly.
Love that. This is a great story. I love hearing this. This is great. So I do want to shift gears a little bit because you have other products. So you have Bertha.ai with Andrew Palmer, another
Yes.
WordPresser. Okay, so are you still working on that? And then also, I feel like AI has gone through a lot in the last
Right.
6 months, 12 months. But this was Bertha.ai was before that. So what
Yeah.
would you have done
A year and a half
differently?
old.
What's that?
It's a year and a half old now.
Oh, so year and a half. So you were just ahead of the rest of it.
Yes.
Wow.
So, with that, it was like Atarim was fully bootstrapped for a few years,
Uh-huh.
and we started seeing stuff coming out with AI. Okay, like that was like 2 years ago or so, right?
Mhm.
Really early stage, like
Mhm.
Jasper type of stuff. What they were called, even the first name they changed the name twice. These guys, and then uh, and copy.ai and things like that. And I thought, man, I tried it and it blew my mind. And I was like, oh my God, if we can have Atarim users use this to get content, to create content for clients instead of waiting for them to do it,
Mhm.
then that would be a game changer.
Mhm.
So we started building it internally, but because we had two challenges. We were bootstrapped, so it felt like we were building another product, and then the other thing was, as we were building it internally, it was like, man, this can be so much bigger than just for agencies. This can be like for every WordPress website in the world.
Mhm.
And so I called up Andrew, who's the guy from Elegant Marketplace, the guy that
Mhm.
we did the deal with before. And thanks to that deal, he sold his business, and he was already, and we became friends, good friends after that. And like pretty much a call every other week and things like this, right? Told him, Andrew, I have an idea for a plugin. And he's like, let's do it. What is it? So this is
He said,
literally how
"Let's
it
do it."
went.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said, "Let's do it first."
Yes. He said, let's do it. What is it? So I told him what it is, and he's like, brilliant. Let me talk to my team, and he already had like a small dev team,
Uh-huh.
lined up.
Yeah.
So let's talk to the team and let's make it happen. So we did, and like 3 weeks later, it was out.
Wow.
And that was and this was literally the first WordPress plugin, and now there's like 8,500
Eight.
users
Okay.
with this, and yeah, and ChatGPT is it's basically now it evolved way beyond. I'm not that involved that much with it recently. Andrew took over completely, and he's loving it and he's growing
Mhm.
it all the time. It evolved significantly internally as well, because
Mhm.
it started with just like, okay, let's do some prompts
Mhm.
for websites, but now there's like images in there,
Yeah.
and it's integrated into a bunch of different plugins inside WordPress.
Oh,
So
cool.
it kind of works with your workflow. There's a
Mhm.
Chrome extension now,
Mhm.
so you can. So I even have it here on my screen,
Mhm.
and I use Bertha before I go to Google.
Uh-huh.
Literally, this is my go-to, and there's a chat because ChatGPT kind of like
Mhm.
was a big thing, so we added the chat in there, and it's all running on a couple of those different things, and so I think it's way better than ChatGPT.
Huh.
We're just not we don't have the 20 billion from Microsoft
Oh.
to drive this in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
same way, you know.
Yeah.
But it is using OpenAI in a lot of the things, as well as not confined to just OpenAI,
Mhm.
which makes it a whole bunch of other use cases in there as well. Even for podcasters, you should look into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I my
Um,
I
yeah,
was just gonna say my personal philosophy is I think right now people think there's gonna be AI companies, and my thinking is every tool that we use today will have AI technology
yeah,
embedded in it. Right?
yes.
Like,
So this was the initial idea. It was,
yeah.
let's put AI into Atarim, but the market was so open at the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
So we said, all right, let's just build a dedicated tool. And now it's like the WordPress, like Atarim is the collaboration tool for WordPress, and WooCommerce is the sales tool for
Mhm.
WordPress.
Mhm.
Bertha is the AI tool for WordPress.
Mhm.
That's how we look at it, at least.
Yeah.
But I agree, and we already see that happening. And what I see with that is that that's true. Many people are going to build AI tools. Even more than that, with Atarim, many people have visual collaboration tools
Mhm.
baked into products. Even,
Mhm.
you see it in Google, you see it in Figma, right, and things like that. You see it in Dropbox. You can click the image and leave a comment on there, but it's a feature. It's a
Yeah.
by the way. It's not a focus, and
Mhm.
that is really the difference between tools like Atarim compared to Google
Yeah.
Notes. We go, and this is really on the two levels of how we look at the product and the vision of the company. Is we centralize and
Mhm.
we go deep. That
Mhm.
these are the two things that we do. Because with Google
Cool.
Docs, even that, you need to go into the Google Doc to see the notes. There's
Yeah.
no centralization of it in that way. So this is how we're kind of looking at the long term vision as well. We're here to centralize and expand deeper.
Love it. Love that. And I'm a big fan of focusing on your core problem, which it sounds like is
Yes,
what you're doing. Yeah.
yes.
So, okay, so you have these two projects. It sounds like you took a little bit of a step back with
Well, oh,
Bertha.ai.
right.
Oh,
So that's
yep.
because we raised money for Atarim just about 5 months ago, and
Nice.
so with that, I made that conscious decision that now it's not just me and it's not just the team. There's other people that I need to account
Mm,
for,
mhm,
and so and not just the users even, but I wanted to first give the product the focus because we're building it to be a 100 million ARR product, and so that requires hyper
yeah.
focus.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So Andrew took over Bertha and is doing an amazing job on
Yeah.
that. and I'm focusing on Atarim, and hopefully doing a good job there also.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, how do you, okay, so you're clearly a master of launching products, but how do you maintain growth so that it continues for 4 years?
More launches.
More
So
launches.
basically, yeah. So I'll tell you, and this again comes back. It's like a full circle to the music space, right?
Uh-huh.
When we were playing as a band, as a tiny band in Tel Aviv, right? In Israel, it's a tiny country. There's like 7 million people, right? In the whole country, and in Tel Aviv, it's even smaller. Just for comparison, just London is bigger in terms of population than the
Uh-huh.
entire country. You know,
Yeah.
the only thing you can do as a musician in Israel is do a show in Tel Aviv once a month. That's it. You reach capacity of your market.
Wow.
So what we did, especially as a small band, was it's like, okay, we can do a show once a month in Tel Aviv. How do we get the same people to come to the same show every month? Let's do launches. So what we did is we basically reframed the same show from different angles every
Hmm,
single month with
hmm,
different themes and different concepts and different holidays and different things like what is and the team meeting or the band meeting was like, okay, why is there a reason to party in November? Okay, there was this, and we looked into like Wikipedia back in the day and the early stages, and trying to find like what happened in November that we can latch onto,
uh-huh.
or on that exact date that we managed to book a venue,
Uh-huh.
and see what happened on that day, and let's build a show around that. And we even ended up doing like stupid stuff like. There was a dog landing on the first launch of a dog to space
Uh-huh.
on the day of the show 50 years
Uh-huh.
ago, you know.
Uh-huh.
So let's I think it was called the Laika or something, if I
Okay.
don't know. There was like the Russians
Uh-huh.
launched a dog to space 50
Uh-huh.
years ago on that day. Let's do a show around that, and we got clothes, and we
Uh-huh.
did like all kinds of decoration to the
Uh-huh.
thing, and the flyers had like us photoshopped into space suits,
Yeah.
and all those
Yeah.
kind of things, right? And we launched it like
Uh-huh.
it's a brand new thing, even though it was the same. So now with the product, every time that we push a release is
Yeah.
an option, is an opportunity for a launch,
Cool.
and we release every month, exactly the
Cool.
same way. Once a month, there's a push. And that push has one or two awesome features that are visible,
Mm-hmm.
that are tangible, that the user can actually see and interact with. And then there's a bunch of bug fixes and improvements to all kinds of other things. But we ride on those two new things that
Yeah.
we create mock-ups for and landing pages about, and it's all about these kind of things, and
Cool.
yeah.
So it's all about showing the new hotness, the new cool thing, and
People like new
it's
stuff. Yeah, people like new
and
stuff.
and it's about getting excitement up, right? It's about
Right.
making users excited that there's new things coming out.
Yes, and it doesn't
Very
always
cool.
work. It's
Yeah.
not that every month it's like we hit it out of the park. But I even remember Yoast, the SEO plugin.
Yep.
Early on, when we were doing those releases, we were kind of like we are making some noise about this, but it kind of felt weird to make a whole bunch of noise around I don't know, releasing bulk updates to the plugin, or to the product. Fine, bulk updates.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a big deal. You know what I mean? But then I saw that there were articles, press releases
Hmm.
about the latest Yoast update.
Hmm.
And that was really early on in our product, and I was kind of and I looked into, okay, cool, there's a product release.
Hmm.
What did they update? And they changed the border radius of the widget.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Uh-huh.
And a bunch of bug fixes. But the featured thing is that our UI completely changed because now it's round. You know,
Yeah.
that's it.
Cool.
So this kind of gave me the, okay.
Yeah.
It's okay
Yeah.
make some noise about nothing, like we used to do back then with the band,
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
let's see how can we do that systematically. And I'm not saying that I don't want people to think that our releases are nothing. We do build a lot, and we build fast, and we do try to
Yeah.
make sure that the releases that we do matter, or make some
Yeah.
kind of an impact,
Yeah.
or bring something innovative to the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is make fanfare of what you do. Like highlight what you do, which I think is really
Yeah,
cool.
celebrate the
Cool.
successes
Yeah. Yeah.
of every time, but
Love it.
also think about it in that way.
Yeah.
And every time that you have a release, you need to do bug fixes constantly,
Hmm.
but you also need to make sure that
Yeah.
something is that
Yeah.
there's candy, that you
Uh-huh.
can
Uh-huh.
keep releasing those candy stuff for the users.
Love it. Well, Vito, we are out of time, so I want to thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate having you. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks to all of you for joining us for another episode of Plugin.fm. On Plugin.fm, we sit down with exceptional product entrepreneurs and business owners who share their unique stories as well as actionable tips and strategies based on their own first-hand experience. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, head over to Plugin.fm to check out our previous episodes. Plugin.fm is brought to you by Freemius, your all-in-one e-commerce partner for selling software, plugins, themes, and SaaS. If you're struggling to grow your plugin revenue, send a note to contact@freemius.com to get free advice from Freemius's monetization experts. My name is Patrick Rolland. I'm out of here. Another episode. Bye-bye.